Tashtaleg and welcome back to class 11 economics. As I've said earlier that we are going to learn this third unit of introductory microeconomics in three parts, and the first part we have already learned. We learned the product, types of product, production function and law of variable proportion. So in today's session we are dealing with the second part of the third unit, and under this we are going to learn the three main important concepts, which is the cost, revenue and producer equilibrium. The concept of cost, it will come for 4 or 6 marks. For 6 marks you will get the numerical questions or to solve problems on the cost concept, and in the revenue, in the second concept, it will come for 3 or 4 marks. You may get the question like state the relation between average revenue and marginal revenue under perfect competition and imperfect competition market. And the third main important concept is producer equilibrium, which often comes for 4 or 6 marks. Either you may get theory or numerical questions on this concept. So these are the three important concepts which we are going to learn today. First, let us go through the meaning of cost. The cost, in simple words, it refers to the expenditure, and from the producer point of view, it is the expenditure incurred by the producer on factors as well as non-factor inputs is called as cost of production, which means that it is an expenditure, and who spends that? It is the producer who are spending for the factors as well as non-factor. Factor, we learned in the previous session that we have 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital and entrepreneur. So these are the factor inputs for the production, and non-factor inputs, these are the one-time used or single used inputs for production, such as raw materials, fuels, electricity. These are the non-factor inputs. So the expenditure incurred by the producer on the factors as well as non-factor inputs, these expenditure are called as cost of production. So this is the cost, and C is equal to function of Q. That means that cost is related to the change in the output, which means that when the output increases or decreases, accordingly the cost of the production will also change. So the functional F refers to the functional relationship, Q refers to quantity or output, and C refers to cost. The functional relationship between the cost and the quantity, it is called as cost function. And next is types of cost. There are 7 types of cost, and first we will go through the 3 most important types of cost. The first one is the total fixed cost. The total fixed cost, it refers to the payments which are made by the producer on fixed factors during the process of production. In the previous session we learned the various fixed and variable factors. The fixed factor, such as machinery, building. So the cost or the expenditure which are incurred on these factors, that is on fixed factor, it is called as fixed costs. So the fixed cost, it is the first type of cost which the producer incurs. So when the producer decides to produce something, he has to first immediately spend on the building, on machinery. Whether there is production or not, he has to first spend on the fixed factors. So the fixed cost is the first type of cost which is incurred by the producer. There may be production or not, but the fixed cost, it will always remain same. So the fixed cost, it do not change with the change in output. These types of costs, they do not change with the change in output. Let's go through the schedule. Q refers to quantity. When there is no output or when there is 0 production, total fixed cost is 100. So even when the production increase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even when the quantity increase, the total fixed cost will remain same. These are the costs which do not change with change in output. So the fixed cost, since it is on the fixed factors, that is which is used for many years, so these costs, they remain same even if the output changes. So the graphical representation for the fixed cost, it will be like this. So the fixed cost, even if the output increases from 1, 2, 3, 4, even if the output increases, total fixed cost, it will remain same. So the diagram for the total fixed cost will be horizontal to x-axis. Even if the output is 0, there is some amount of fixed cost. Even if the output is 4, the fixed cost remains same, that is 100. So the total fixed cost, it is a cost on fixed factors of production, and also it is a cost which do not change with the change in output. Second type of cost is total variable cost. These are the costs which are incurred by the producer on variable factors such as raw materials, fuel, electricity. It is a single used input for production. So these are the inputs which are used up during the process of production. It cannot be used again. So the variable factors, we learned in the previous session that in the short run production function there are two types of factors, that is variable and fixed factors. So all the expenditure which is incurred on the variable factor, these are called as total variable cost. So the variable factors, since from the name itself we know that it will change according to the change in production. So in the same way, the variable cost, it will also change or vary according to the changes in the output. From the table we can see that when there is zero production, when there is no production, the total variable cost is 0, which means that when there is no production, we don't need labor, we don't need raw material, we don't need fuel, electricity. So these are the variable cost. According to the output, the variable cost will increase. So when I am producing 1 unit of output, my total variable cost increases to 50. And when I increase my output to 2 units, my TVC increases from 50 to 80. So like according to the output, the total variable cost will increase, and when there is a reduction in output, total variable cost will also fall. So you have to keep in mind that when there is no production, the TVC is 0. So from the graphical representation of total variable cost, we can see that x-axis shows the quantity or output, y-axis shows the total variable cost. And when there is 0 production, when the quantity is 0, total variable cost is also 0. So the total variable cost curve, it will start from the origin, and when there is increase in production, the total variable cost will also increase. So it is an upward slope. TVC curve is an upward slope. So this is the second type of cost, that is total variable cost. And the third one is the total cost. It is the sum of both the cost, that is the first and second one. So from the name itself, it is total cost, which means that it is a total expenditure incurred by the producer on fixed and variable factor. Since in the short run we have two factors, the sum of costs spent on the two factors, it is called as total cost. So total cost is equal to total fixed cost plus total variable cost. When we sum up these two factors, when we sum up the expenditure incurred on these two factors, we get total cost. So from the quantity, when it is 0, total variable cost is 0. But we know that there will always be fixed cost, whether there is production or not. The fixed cost, it will always be there. So the fixed cost will start from the positive y-axis. So the total cost, it is the sum of TFC and TVC. So we will take the sum of both TFC and TVC. First, 100 plus 0, that is 100 total cost. When 1 unit of output is produced, the total cost is 100 plus 50, 150. When the 2 units of output are produced, the total cost is 180. Third unit, 200. At fourth unit, the total cost is 300. And at the fifth unit, the total cost is 470. So the total cost, we take it as the sum of TFC and TVC. And when we write the diagram of all the three costs in one graphical representation, we get it as TVC. We already know that it starts from the origin. Total fixed cost, it is horizontal to x-axis. We have to keep in mind that when TVC is 0, TC is equal to TFC. Whenever total variable cost is 0, your total fixed cost will be equal to total cost. So it means that the total cost will start from the point where the total fixed cost starts. So accordingly, when the output increases, your total cost will increase because TVC is increasing. Therefore, your total cost will also be upward slope. It will go parallel to the total variable cost. The gap between TVC and total cost shows your total fixed cost. Total variable cost and total cost, it will be parallel curve because the gap between total variable cost and total cost, it shows your total fixed cost. So since the total fixed cost remains same, it will be parallel. So the TVC and total cost, it will never intersect. So these are the three most important types of cost. The next type of cost are the average cost. And in average cost, we have average fixed cost, average variable cost, average total cost, and marginal cost. And when we talk about average, we generally find out the total divided by quantity. So we will use the same formula, that is the total divided by quantity, but according to the particular cost. First is average fixed cost, which means that it is the per unit fixed cost of production. It means that how much we are spending the fixed cost for each unit of production. So average fixed cost, it is total fixed cost upon quantity. That is how much we are spending fixed cost for each unit of production. So let's find out AFC. The first is total fixed cost, it remains same, 100. So according to each unit of output, we will find out. The first one is 100 upon 0. Since the denominator is 0, there is no value, or we can write it as infinity. And next is 100 upon 1, that is 100. At 2 units of output, 50, 100 upon 3, 33.3, 100 upon 4, and 100 upon 5. This is the average fixed cost, that is TFC upon quantity. And when you find out average variable cost, it is per unit variable cost of production. That is how much we are spending variable cost, or how much the variable cost is incurred on each unit of production. So the formula for average variable cost is total variable cost upon Q, TVC upon Q. So we have TVC and we also have quantity. So we will divide these two variables. First is 0 upon 0, there is no value or infinity. Second is 50 upon 1, 50, 80 upon 2, 40, 100 divided by 3, 33.3, 200 divided by 4, 50, 370 divided by 5, 74. This is the average variable cost, that is total variable cost divided by quantity. Next is average cost, or we can also say it as average total cost. So average total cost is the total cost upon Q. That is how much sum of the cost we are spending for each unit of production. So total average cost is TC upon Q. We have TC and also quantity. So we'll divide these two variables, 100 upon 0 dash 150 upon 1, 150, 180 upon 2, 90, 200 divided by 3, 56.6. 300 divided by 4, 75. 470 divided by 5, 94. So this is the average cost, and the last is marginal cost. Marginal cost, we have learned in the earlier session that marginal, it refers to the change or additional. So in terms of marginal cost, it refers to the additional cost incurred due to additional unit of output. So marginal cost, we have to deduct the next cost and the previous one. So the marginal cost, it is the TCN minus TCN minus 1. Suppose we are finding out total marginal cost of the fourth unit. So we have to find marginal cost by deducting total cost 4 and total cost 3. TC4 and TC3. So let's first find out marginal cost. First one is MC dash. Next is for 1 unit of production, total cost is 150. When there was no production, total cost was 100. So the change in total cost is 50. We are deducting TC2 and TC1. And the next total cost is 180, and the previous one was 150. So the difference is 30. And in the same way, 20, then next 100, and again 170. So we have to deduct the previous total cost and the next total cost, that we will get marginal cost. So there is another formula for finding out marginal cost, which is change in total cost upon change in quantity. So there are two formulas for finding out marginal cost. You can use either one. So these are the types of cost we have learned, and we have also learned the graphical representation of the first three, that is TFC. It is a parallel horizontal to x-axis, and total variable cost, it is upward slope starting from the origin, and total cost, it is upward slope starting from the point where TFC starts. So the graphical representation for AFC, it is very important. Average fixed cost will be somewhat like this, downward slope. What we have to keep in mind, that the average fixed cost, it will never intersect x-axis or y-axis, since there will always be total fixed cost. So the average fixed cost, it will never be 0, it will be positive numbers. So AFC, it will never intersect either x-axis or y-axis. And AFC, it is also called as rectangular hyperbola, because when we multiply AFC into quantity, we will get the answer. All the answers will be same. At various level of output, when we multiply AFC and quantity, we will get the same value or the same answer. For example, when I multiply 100 into 1, I'll get 100. When I multiply 50 into 2, I get 100. When I multiply 33.3 into 3, I get 100. So rectangular hyperbola AFC is also called as rectangular hyperbola, because when we multiply at any point when we multiply quantity into average fixed cost, we will get the same value, that is 100. So that's why it is called as average fixed cost. And also we have to keep in mind that the average variable cost, it is decreasing and then increasing. Average cost, it is also decreasing and then increasing, and marginal cost also, it is decreasing and then increasing. So the curve for these three costs, it will be either somewhat like U shape, or it will be like a tick shape. So it is so one important question which comes in your paper is that why the average cost curve is U shape or the marginal curve is tick shape, because it is The main reason is because of the law of variable proportion. We have learned in the earlier session that the law of variable proportion, it states that as we combine more and more of variable factor with a fixed factor, total production increase initially, and then total production it increase at a decreasing rate, and finally total product declines. So according to the law of proportion, our cost, it is also first decreasing at the first stage. Since the total production is more, that's why our cost is less, and when the total production is at its maximum, at that time our cost or our average cost is least, and when the total production falls, then our cost increases. Therefore, because of the law of variable proportion, our average cost curve, it is somewhat like a U shape. So these are the types of cost. Apart from the types of cost which we learned, we also have other two types of cost, that is explicit cost and implicit cost. The explicit cost, it is the cost which are incurred on the inputs hired from the market, or it is a cost which is incurred on the inputs from the outsiders. For example, like suppose if I want to run a hotel, and as a labor, if I take the labor from the outsiders and I make a payment of wages every month, that is the explicit cost, because I'm hiring labor from the outsiders. And implicit cost, it is the input. It is a self-owned input, which means that you are using your own factors of production, such as you are using your family members as a labor. For our family member, we don't need to pay wages every month. So these are the inputs which are self-owned, the implicit costs, and also like the buildings which are owned, which are self-owned. So the implicit and explicit costs, explicit from the name itself, it refers to the external factors. So the cost which are incurred on the inputs hired from the market, the labors which is hired from the market, or the buildings which are hired from the market where you have to pay rent every month. So these are the explicit costs. This question, it will come either for 3 marks or 1 marks question or 1 mark question. On this board, I have written all the formulas which are required to solve the numerical for the cost theory. First is we have TC equals to TVC, total variable cost plus total fixed cost. From these 3 factors, if you have any 2 factors given, then you will get the third one. For example, like when the total cost and total fixed cost is given, when you deduct fixed cost from total cost, you will get the variable cost. In the same way, if total variable cost is given, when you deduct it from total cost, you will get the fixed cost. So like out of these 3 variables, if any 2 is given, then you will get the third one. And this next is average fixed cost, that is per unit fixed cost of production, that is TFC upon Q. You can also find it like average cost is equal to average fixed cost plus average variable cost. That is, since total cost is the sum of fixed cost and variable cost, in the same way, average cost is the sum of average fixed cost and average variable cost. So from these 3 variables, if the two of the variables are given, then you will get the third one. So like in the same way, when average fixed cost is given, when you deduct it from average cost, you get average variable cost. Also, when average variable cost is given, when you deduct it from average cost, you will get average fixed cost. So these are the formulas for finding out the cost theory. And marginal costs, we have learned many a times. We learned in the marginal utility and also in the marginal product, and now marginal cost, that we have to deduct the previous one from the next variables. So these are the formulas for finding out cost theory. Next very important concept is the concept of revenue. The revenue refers to the amount or money which is received by the firm or the producer from the sale of its given quantity of the commodity in the market. The revenue refers to the amount of money when a producer or a firm, when they tries to sell a given quantity in the market, and when they get money in return, that amount of money, it is termed as revenue. And the total revenue, it is the total money received of a producer from the sale of its given quantity of a commodity. That is, it is almost same, but the total revenue, it refers to the total amount of money by selling the total quantity of a product. Suppose if the producer tries to sell 5 units or 5 quantity of a pen, each price of each pen is rupees 10. So the producer, when he tries to sell 5 pen and the price of pen is rupees 10 per each, so the total revenue he received is 50 rupees, 5 into 10. So the formula for finding out total revenue is price into quantity. That is how much quantity the producer is selling and how much the cost of each commodity is, that is the price of the commodity. So when we multiply price into the number of quantity the producer sells, these two as total revenue. And the next is the average revenue. Average revenue, it is the revenue per unit of output sold. That is how much each quantity of a commodity cost in the market. So when we talk about average, it is always calculated by dividing the total upon quantity. So when we find out average revenue, it is total revenue upon quantity. That is how much each quantity of a commodity is sold in the market. So average revenue, it is also termed as price, because since average revenue means how much each commodity is sold in the market, it is similar to price of the commodity. So average revenue, it can be calculated as TR upon Q, or also average revenue, it is equal to price. Therefore, we can write total revenue equals to P into Q, as well as total revenue equals to AR into Q. So these are the two formula for finding out total revenue. And the last one is marginal revenue. As we have learned that marginal refers to additional or change, and the marginal revenue refers to the change in total revenue. When one more unit of a commodity is sold in the market, how much a producer is getting an additional income. That additional income, it is termed as marginal revenue. In the previous example, I've given that 5 pence are sold for rupees 10 each. So the total revenue is rupees 50. When he sells the 6 unit, that is when he sells 6 pen, he gets rupees 60. The total revenue is rupees 60. But before he was getting rupees 50. So the change in total revenue is rupees 10. That change is termed as marginal revenue. Next is the relation between average revenue and marginal revenue in a perfect competition market and in an imperfect competition market. So there are two types of market, where in a perfect competition market, there a homogeneous product is sold, where the product are homogeneous or similar in terms of size, package, weight, etc. So in the perfect competition market, since the product are homogeneous, even their prices are uniform. So in this kind of market, the price remain constant. And in an imperfect competition, in this kind of market, the products sold are close substitute. Prices may differ in this kind of market, and the first schedule, it is in the perfect competition market, where the prices are constant, and the second schedule, it is in the imperfect competition market, where the prices are falling. So we'll go to the first schedule, and here the quantity of the commodities sold are increasing and the prices remain constant. TR, we have learned earlier how to find TR, that is price into quantity. 1 into 10, 10, 2 into 10, 20, 3 into 10, 30, 4 into 10, 40, and 5 into 10, 50. So the formula to find out total revenue, it is price into quantity. And average revenue, as we have learned earlier, that average revenue is equal to price. So it is 10 and it remains same, or also average revenue can be found using total revenue divided by quantity. So the answer would be same. And the marginal revenue, it is the change or the additional revenue received in total revenue. It is the change in total revenue. So the change among the total revenue are 10, 10, 10, 10. So the marginal revenue is also 10. So this is a schedule for a perfect competition market, and the graphical representation is that when price, average revenue and marginal revenue, when these three are similar, you are getting a parallel line horizontal to x-axis. So this is the AR and MR curve under perfect competition market, and your total revenue is increasing, that is from 10 to 50, it is rising. And in the imperfect competition market, where the prices are falling, because in this kind of market the products sold are different, that is these are substitute goods. So what happens is the producer can sell more only by lowering the price. As we learned that when there is a less price, the demand would rise and it would increase the customers. So the here in this market the producer tries to sell more by lowering the price. So here the price may differ. So and to find out total revenue, again similar thing, price into quantity, 1 into 10, 2 9s are 18, 3 8 24, 4 7 28, 5 into 6 30, total revenue. And average revenue is equal to price, 10 9 8 7 6, it is similar. And also average revenue can be found out using total revenue divided by quantity. And the marginal revenue, it is the change in total revenue. So 10 to 18 there is 8 rupees change, and 18 to 24 6, 24 to 28 4, 28 to 32. So these are the different types of revenue under imperfect market. And when this schedule is represented in graphical form, we get that marginal revenue and average revenue curve, these both are downward slope curve. Here we can see that both average revenue and marginal revenue is decreasing, but average revenue is higher. So here the average revenue lies above marginal revenue. Marginal revenue can be 0, but average revenue, it will always remain positive. And total revenue, we can see that 10, 18, 24, 28, 30, total revenue is increasing, and total revenue may fall when there is no profit for the firm. So the only difference between perfect competition and imperfect competition is that since under perfect competition the product is homogeneous and prices remain same, we get AR and MR curve, horizontal parallel line to x-axis. Whereas in an imperfect competition, since the product are different and substitute goods, we get AR and MR curve downward sloping, and also the prices are falling and different. The next important concept which we are going to learn is producer equilibrium. This is a very important concept as it often comes for 6 marks and it may also come for 3 or 4 marks. So first we will go to the meaning of producer equilibrium. It is known as state of rest, as the producer is earning maximum profit with minimum cost. So he does not want to change the level of output. So before I go to producer equilibrium, I would like to remind the consumer equilibrium, where the consumer tries to maximize his satisfaction. What the consumer needs is satisfaction by consuming the commodity, whereas in the producer equilibrium, what the producer wants is to earn maximum profit. So the producer equilibrium, in this condition or in this situation, the producer tries to maximize his profit at a minimum cost, and when he earns that maximum profit, he would not change his level of output. He will not either increase or decrease his output. When he is earning maximum profit, he will be at the state of rest. So it is a condition where producer tries to maximize his profit. And to find out that level at which the producer is at maximum profit, there are 2 methods to find. And first is total revenue and total cost approach. Approach is also called as method. And the second approach is the marginal cost and marginal revenue approach. Since the first approach is out of syllabus, we are learning the second approach, that is marginal cost and marginal revenue approach. There are two conditions, that is, the first one is marginal cost should be equal to marginal revenue. As we have learned both the marginal cost and marginal revenue, marginal cost refers to the additional cost which the producer has to incur when he produces one more unit of output. In the same way, marginal revenue, it is the additional revenue which the producer gets when he produces one more unit of output. So these two must be equal, and the second condition is marginal cost must be rising. So in order for a producer to be in a state of rest, or in order to earn the maximum profit, he has to fulfill these two conditions. From these total revenue and TC, we have to find MR and MC. Since the marginal revenue, it is a change in total revenue, we will find out MR. First is 10, then change in total revenue, 10, 10, 10. And marginal cost, it is a change in total cost. So the first one is 15, then the change in total cost is 12. Next change is 10, next 8, next change is 10, and the next change is 12. So these are the marginal cost and marginal revenue. From the table itself, we know that we are talking about perfect competition, where there is a homogeneous product and price remains same. So we are considering a market where there is a perfect competition market, and also where there is price and average revenue are similar. So in this schedule, we can find out that marginal revenue, it remains same, and marginal cost, it is declining and then it is increasing. So let's find out the first condition, where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. So in this schedule, there are two levels at which MC equals to MR, that is at 3 unit of output, at 3rd unit of output, MC equals to MR, and also at 5th level of output, MC equals to MR. Let's give it as R and name this as K. At point R and K, marginal revenue and marginal cost are similar. But before point R, here we can see that marginal cost is more than marginal revenue. When the producer tries to maximize his profit by one more unit, his cost is more than marginal revenue, because since the producer is producing a commodity at a first stage, so the cost will obviously be more. So before point R, this MC is more than MR. Let's write it as greater than MR, and at point R, MR is equal to MC. So let's learn this concept through a diagram. At point R, here at point R, MR is equal to MC, and after point R, that is at 4th level of output, marginal cost is less than marginal revenue, where when the producer produces one more unit of output, his cost is less and his revenue is more, which means that he is earning profit at 4th level of output. He is earning profit. But when he produces one more unit of output, his marginal revenue and marginal cost is similar, that is at point K. At point K, also the first condition satisfies, that is marginal revenue equals to marginal cost. Now we get a 2 level of output where the first condition gets satisfied, but we have to find only 1 level of output where the producer gets maximum profit. So in order to find that, now we have to look into the second condition, where marginal cost must be rising. So in the first point where MR is equal to MC, here MC is not rising. As we can see that MC, it is falling 15, 12, 10, 8. at this point R, the second condition not get satisfied. It doesn't get satisfied. So at point K, where MC is rising 8, 10, 12. At point K, marginal cost is rising. So this is the point of equilibrium. Point K is the point of equilibrium where the first condition and second condition both get satisfied. Here MR is equal to MC and also MC is rising. When the producer tries to produce one more unit after point K, he finds that his cost is more than his revenue. So he will stop production after point K. So point K is the point where the producer gets his maximum profit, and when he tries to maximize one more unit of output, he will get loss or he will not earn any profit after point K. So at point K, the producer will stop producing, and the producer is at a state of rest where the producer is earning maximum profit at minimum cost. So this is the condition of the producer equilibrium where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue and marginal cost must be rising. So this concept, it will come for 6 marks, and you have to write first the definition, and then you have to write the condition and explain, and then the schedule followed by the diagram and explanation. So this is the most important concept of today's session. Tene the taringi ngazo jushi changyo de la chik the pyoge ne ma dishi gena samsra tene khasa ni gi shuba ni shi anzi gi de lobje sumba di ani ngen thon sum la kopshe ge chira tene da ngen thon thangbo di khasa production function the law of variable proportion kala jangre tene da thanda ngen thon ni ba di ani anzi gi thari changa di cost na doson ra and tene chik khare producer gi ani chala tye da an doson khandi do stang do ra de chik che and tene revenue na ani producer gi chala ten sabe jela an khu gi chala ma chong ni an chula yong chungkhung la ne ke ta ni do khandi chira gu do ra tila ma zo revenue che and tene producer equilibrium la de and tene producer la ani kho khepsang mangshwe kho gi khwala chunggu do ma zo this sum de thari changa che ro tene cost kula ani cost at the producer ki chala chik te la dosong khwa kha tang ga ra dosong tang sa den factor the non factor input la ne factor input la na ani the land labor capital entrepreneur this shila ma factor input la ra ani the shila ma ki dosong tang ba dila factor input che and non factor input la de lamsa chila thui chik dosong tang wa ta namsa zo dwe jora and the di thang di ki chala zo ma yang pheju tang ai mi ke de zo la non factor input chira chikta the raw material the fuel the and lok the zo sama ma non factor input che chesan the factor input the non factor input deran ni ka gi dosong dom che and the producer gi dosong tang ba dila ma ki cost le rest ra tene cost ayena dos dinyo ra tene total cost na kyen dom ne doson di che total variable cost na ani ma ge variable factor la doson tang gyon sura ma ge chala jibu thingi gi en chala rate la doson tang gyon variable cost che total fixed cost na chala ta lo mangpu pheju ta ye ge chala rate la ma ge doson tang ba de fixed cost che tene marginal cost na ani kyen dom ne ma chala ji doson tang gyo sura di chen tene 제가 이게 양자 자라 직등 바르지나 내가 도송 퇴바 가지 두도 내가 먼저 marginal cost 처럼 되네 average 라 든 상마 걸라나 아니 자라 찍라 아니 도송 가지 도서로 표현dom니 직때 빼셔나 얘기 자라 숨때 니 도송 고무 급주 주이나 자라 찍라 고무 가지 도서로 되네 chala chikla doson komo sumje do ra di ma zu ki average na ra and chala kam chikla doson khaje do to di chera then explicit cost and implicit cost explicit cost that ma zu ki chala te chi do ani chala kisi the ni chala te chi the land labor capital entrepreneur di shi ko la ro di shi de kisi ni ki chilo ni ya wara china market nilem bari china ma dunzu la riba te ro dunzu la kisi ni labor do chi ni ki chilo ne na ma kunzu la da la cha teura dila ma explicit cost la implicit cost na the factor shi de so rang factor limba the ni gi shinga ta la so rang nami thi ro na ro di kha che re implicit cost chira khaja na so so gi nang mi la mi te ma yin ya shin ka ta bia la ni gi labor phe ju tang di factor bla chi gi ro na yin ya to so che ta yo mar che zang az di implicit cost de khala na so so rang gi factor phe ju tang ba che ro khang ba yin gi labor yin gi mi yin gi sang ma so so rang gi jin da tin che chik ta de so so rang ga ji ro son tang ba di la implicit cost ro explicit cost da ti chilo ni ya ba mi ni chilo ni ya ba sa ja ni chilo ni ya ba mi ni chilo ni le ba ro di sang ma lang ji explicit cost ro dini the revenue la di khala na ni gi chala chong ni chu la yong kha je ro to di la revenue che ro ani di la ani average revenue the marginal revenue la ni ro ini ta also market yang ni ro the perfect competition the imperfect competition nani perfect competition dikhala na chala rik sangma chikpa kho ta ne ke chala chikpa chikyan chira chilo ne ta du ta khong da ani di ki khara di jise da dine ta di ki chilo gi yip di khande to ro an sopta khande to chen kha da du tu sangma chikpa chikyan rik song ba de la manji ki the perfect competition la ro chala chikpa chikyan inde khunsu ya khong gi chikpa ro ta di la khong gi chikpa inde kha chala na di barata di perfect competition की market प्ला average revenue the marginal revenue दी cheaper रहा दिने ता imperfect competition में दिखाना ना चला थमा खा समझे चला खा समझे खुद की खोंग या खा इंदी अन दी ठंग ला खाला ना average revenue the marginal revenue दी मा छा दो जो मा इंदे चिन downward slope रहा जैसे कोरानी की खेपा ते वन दिचे दिने ता थमा दी producer equilibrium में दिखाला ना ता producer कोला इंदे चिन चला समझे की 미tilani 콜라 캡산 망시 코알 라우더로 데네 코기 캡산 망시 코알 라우라나 코랑기 용다 조선다 수데 중공주로 용다 송디 치파이나 아니 콜라 캡산을 레스토랑 디라 컨디션이 디 당보디 용다 송 치파체 니바데 칼라나 조선디 파르디 교지 코레스 카지나나 기시 니게 조선 마차데나 프로듀서게 잘라테나 이바로 어진 코기 조선디 제기 니게 잘라치 양갸되나 니게 조선 파기에나 아니 가시레 잘라테 참실로 제산 니게 잘라테 망시 그것부터 땡기도록 디 포인트 데라 마지게 프로듀서 이퀄럼 나그레스로 아니 온디다 디 table the any remove ki son dos mate chero da de ni inge thane mate shi shusara on da gara yi ani tharing ki concept de thanda dos chini sum jangra de ni da ni dos sumba de la thanda de lo chen sumba de muthuni chi ni. So in today's session we learned the second part of the third unit. We learned revenue, cost and producer equilibrium. In the next session we will be learning the rest of the concept of the third unit of producer behavior and supply, which is of 13 marks in your exam. Thank you so much for watching.